everybody. I'm Charlene Shirk, and I'm your host of Digital Champions, where we get to speak to some of the most innovative thought leaders in the digital space. And today we're joined by Douglas Karr with Highbridge Consultants. Douglas, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's fantastic to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and what you're consulting on.
Well, primarily it's the business pain point of digital transformation, and I know that that's a broad term, but what we have seen is that enterprise companies and even medium-sized businesses, they tend to get stuck on this huge vision and sold on a platform that's going to solve all of their problems, and there's really not a balance in their company for talent, strategy, prioritization, et cetera. And so primarily around Salesforce Marketing Cloud, but we do work in other platforms and technologies. We basically help companies kind of reroute all of the way that they're doing things. And so it might be from talent acquisition and training and development through process development and prioritization, and then really leveraging their technology. So internally, trying to automate as much as they can because, resources have really dried up, especially in the marketing and sales side of the equation at a lot of companies. And then from an external standpoint for customer experience.
It sounds like you get their house in order first so that when you do the great marketing and engagement that you're going to do to get those conversion, that once that comes back in-house, they've got a process to execute this successfully.
That's exactly it, and that's the chief problem that we see is people get sold on the platform, which is the end of the road, and instead of really looking at what are they going to do internally to really leverage that technology to transform their business.
And even track those leads to see where they're coming from, who they're coming from, and then what's happening to those leads. So and usually a company like yours evolves into offering these services because they've seen that this is a need amongst the clients that are being drawn to them. Is that what happened in your case? Is that kind of the maybe they had a pain point, hey, we want to market better, but then you realize, oh, you need to get the wheels on first before you can really start marketing?
That's exactly it. I started my career in marketing technology when I was actually in newspapers and digital in database marketing prior to that. But when I started in digital, everything was so focused on platforms, and we kept getting sucked back in to say, what, these companies keep implementing these platforms and spending just millions of dollars on implementation, integration, and they're still having problems, and they're not realizing the return on investment. There's a lot of the major players. If you look at Adobe and Microsoft and Salesforce, Oracle, SAP, the chief complaint of all of those is, well, we didn't realize our return on investment. And so and the problem with that is all of those platforms are highly customizable. I liken it to buying a race car. You're not buying, an off the showroom floor Chevy. You're buying a Formula One race car. And when you buy a Formula One race car, you don't just buy the car, right? You have to get the team and the mechanic and the training and all of the supporting, documentation, all of the supporting implementation devices, measurement devices, all of those things. And then you got to learn how to race the car. And that's what I liken it to.
I knew you were going to go there. And then you have to learn how to drive the car once you get all the team and the fancy things in place. So let's talk about where you see this marketplace evolving in the next 2 years.
I mean, the big thing that's happened, especially because of the pandemic and the supply chain issues and everything else, one of the, maybe I hate to say a plus side of that is that buying has really become personal. And that's that you're seeing the great resignation. People are leaving good paying jobs because they spent some more time at home and they figured out what their quality of life was and everything else. And so when I look at the marketing technology and sales side of the industry, 10 years ago, it was hyper focused on, what are the results for the company? Is this going to move the company forward from a profitability standpoint and efficiency standpoint, everything else. And now when we're talking to people, they're more concerned about, well, is this going to impact my overtime? Is this going to impact my quality of life with my family that I've really created? Is this going to risk my promotion? Is this going to, and so it's really this layers that we're seeing where buying has become really personal, even from a B2B standpoint, not just a B2C standpoint. And so it's making an adjustment. I mean, great salespeople have always focused on those personal relationships and developing those personal relationships. But where we're seeing a lot of companies fall down is those companies were just talking about their features, their benefits, their return on investment with their platform, and now they're having to go back and rethink. How are we developing the strategy? Because everything matters now. It matters. Your how you're helping your community. We've watched foundations move from outside the company to, hey, these companies have community days off where they're helping everybody. They're getting involved in legal and political issues and everything else. And so buying has gone from this, strict, kind of corporate siloed decision-making process to now it's about my life and my quality of life and who I'm working with. Do I appreciate you? All of those pieces. And so that's a lot to juggle, for a sales and marketing team, to rebuild their strategies and kind of rebrand their companies, moving forward.
You know what, Douglas? I think we've all realized life is precious, and sometimes some crap just isn't worth it anymore.
That's exactly it. And so I came from, I worked at a lot of large software as a service vendors, and they always sold these incredible visions, and then they, along the implementation, they missed that vision and frustrated their customers and everything else. And so what we're really trying to do is help people set valid expectations of what's achievable, look at their resources internal and then steer them in that direction and really set up a valid expectation, maybe outside the sales cycle.
Douglas, I could talk to you all day long. You and I are on the same page all day long, and I think what you've shared with folks is very functionally informational and inspirationally informational, I really must say. Douglas, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. And that was Douglas Karr with Highbridge Consultants. Hey, sometimes it's just not worth the crap anymore, people? So thanks so much for joining us on Digital Champions. I'm your host, Charlene Shirkin. If you'd like to learn more about Highbridge Consultants, check them out on dailyadbrief.com. Thanks for joining us. Have a great one.